Hey, aloha, everyone. Michelle Melendez with Blossom Inner Wellness and StandTogetherHawaii.com. This is also on the Voice of Kona Radio, 100.5 FM. Mahalo so much for listening and joining. Just a couple things we're going to be talking about the war. What is the update on the war from a non-mainstream media platform? And we'll talk about that. I think that's the Hopi sign for the Hopi prophecy that we're in. So I want to say a couple of things. Before we start, first, Michael Tiavana, he's was at the first Rainbow Gathering way back in the 70s. He met with a elder of the Hopis, a Hopi elder, which he'll talk about at the end of our update for the war, because he takes a look at what's happening. Before we get started, I do want to just say so much mahalo to my sponsor of this channel, aceofcoins.com. If you, again, I say this every time, but if you want to learn how to lower your taxes, eliminate them lawfully, if you want to learn how to buy Bitcoin tax-free or license your own biometric data, your image, please go to aceofcoins.com. And then my last little blurb, look at my mug. Stand Together Hawaii. I just made these, even though this is a little smaller mug than I would want it. So if you want to get a mug like this, you can go to blossominnerwellness.com. I'll put the link in the description if you want to get a mug. It'll say mug. These are for 12 bucks and stand together. It's like a lei, Hawaii. And that's it.
And look at this beautiful mug here.
Beautiful mug. So Michael, first tell us a little bit about your journey in learning about this stuff, and then what is the update on the world that you want to share? I'm going to put the mic up here for you.
Well, my journey has been to find and seek the truth about what's going on in the world. It's a very complicated world. And I've explored, researched, written, and been engaged in WTF, the world.
What was your book called? I forgot to mention your book.
WTF Iraq. No, it's called Iraq.
The yeah, I remember it. We had it up here.
It's
Globalization or something.
Well, it's about how the world is transposing from one state to another, and this is the period in the world's history when the rubber hits the road, so to speak, because our rulers that want to be only have a certain amount of time to pull off this scam that they're giving us about an insecure world. They're making the world very insecure so they can take over. That's the Klaus Schwabs, the World Economic Forum. Those people have gained a lot of power, but those are just the mechanisms that they're using to take over the world and have the world their way. Mm-hmm. It involves a lot, but right now we have them looking like the good guys wanting to save the world, and that's through the World Economic Forum. And anyway, they've penetrated all the governments of the world, but the world has been rebelling.
What's been going on? What's the latest?
Well, just to make it brief, the fulcrum point is in the Middle East and Israel. And I'm trying to point out ways that it's not real, and they're just making a lot of things up. And they're proposing the beginning of World War III, but Iran is a surrogate of Russia and China. If you attack one, you attack them all. Actually, there's over 40 states in that little posse.
And then NATO, right?
And then there's NATO, and then there's people sitting on the sideline watching. Like, so you got anyway. What's happening is it gets down to it right now. There's a lot of bombing going on between the two factions. You got Russia, China, Iran, and a few dozen other countries versus NATO. It's basically it. And Japan and Australia. There's a few countries that aren't in NATO, Canada. Anyway, it's all of Europe and the United States mostly. So they're fomenting war. And what has transpired this last week is that Iran, which is a major military power with, and it dwarfs Israel, it dwarfs everybody in the Middle East. It's probably the biggest military regime in the area. But it's backed by Russia. And they attacked a counterattack on Israel on a military base, an Air Force base in Israel. And this was in response to Israel attacking the embassy of Iran in Damascus, Syria. And they killed 8 people, including one of their top generals. And in retaliation, Iran attacked a military base just to penetrate the Iron Dome, which Israel puts up to give themselves some security. So they did that, and they actually landed some bombs on an Air Force base in Israel.
So the Iron Dome is like it's a protective shield that they put up, and they've literally stated nobody can get in. It's like a shield over.
Yeah, it's an iron shield, but it's not. And Iran proved it's not. So what Iran did is they went in and put in a bunch of little cheap drones, and they went in and did some scatter shots. So they would release a bomb that broke into like 50 bombs, and that all that did was entertain Israel to the point where they used millions and millions of dollars worth of munitions, maybe over $1 billion in munitions to counter this attack. And Iran spent maybe $1 million with cheap munitions, maybe a few million, but in comparison, it would be easy to exhaust Israel's supply of this Iron Dome protections.
This is Sparky.
Actually, that's
Fangine. There are 2 black cats.
Fangine.
Fangine.
With the fangs. So what they did, what Iran did is prove that the Iron Dome is penetrable, and they landed some after they put in the drones and the missiles. They put in the heavyweight missiles and blew up one of the airports for the military of the Israelis. Israel came back and has now attacked Iran again. And this time they went after their nuclear development place in Isfahan, Iran. And Iran was ready to go back and attack Israel again, but Russia came in and said, no, don't escalate, just calm down. So now it's turned into a war of words at the UN, and both sides are citing how each side is breaking these UN treaties and agreements.
Can you explain what the UN is? A little bit more about who started it? Who started it?
United Nations was started by the Allied powers after World War II. They have a way of, it's kind of like a forum of settlements if there's any disputes. And that was started by the European countries and the United States. And they threw Russia in there at the same time because Russia at the time was an ally. And I think China's a charter member too. So you have your charter members in the UN that have veto power. So lately, all these sanctions from the world have gone before the World Court. Israel's been found guilty, and the sanctions haven't been played out so much because chickens, cats, people were in the country. Uh, because there's 5 countries with veto power, and the U.S. is one of them, and the U.S. has been vetoing alone all these reasons to put sanctions on the United States for doing this. But anyway, what's happening is these attacks have been going back and forth physically and verbally as we sit on the brink of World War III. By having Russia sit in the background still with just warnings, dire warnings, has been a tribute to Russia for keeping a lid on everything. The other day, the United States put a lid on Israel. Israel wanted to send over some nukes. It's reported that they did go off. These would have been the nukes that EMP nukes that wipes out all the electronic systems in Iran. And U.S. and Russia are holding their two dogs,
proxy people, proxy
dogs on the leash, keeping them on the leash with dire warnings. But at the same time, the United States is in the process of sending 45,000 more troops to the region. They've got 45,000 there now in the region, and they're going to put another 45,000 in the next coming couple of weeks.
Why are they doing this? Why? Because, there's a lot of questioning about the whole start of this. We don't need to go talk about this, but what's the end goal here?
Well, the end goal is to break down and reshape the geopolitical map. It's time to reshape things and put things under one world government, ruled over by right now the UN and the WHO and agencies like that. But they want a more firm grip on the world so they can have new economies. So Klaus Schwab can have his world where you will own nothing and be happy. It should be good for Rent-A-Center, huh? I'd invest in Rent-A-Center.
It's chicken.
Yeah, the attacks on the peace of the world in Ukraine, Israel, the Congo, these are attacks on the people of the world, and you don't want a world war. First of all, a lot of people die. They think there's too many people in the world. I personally don't think there's too many people in the world. I just think it's the way that they live in the world, gobbling up resources and fighting over resources. But they want to keep Africa poor so that they'll do the work for the powerful countries, the more developed countries.
Mm-hmm. Keep them slaves.
So you have rebellion going on. Are you familiar with what has been happening in Niger?
Mm-hmm.
So there's Nigeria and Niger. Niger is just north of Nigeria. And all of the oil pipelines to France go through Niger. Niger took over those oil lines last year and said, we're not doing this anymore. We want a piece of the pie. So they're negotiating. France was going to send in troops, but the U.S. stopped them from igniting a war down there. But all that oil from Nigeria goes through Niger, and Nigerians took over those pipelines, and they're kind of holding them hostage, holding Europe hostage. And so there's battles breaking out where Africa is really wanting its independence from the colonial states.
I don't blame them.
And
they've been under enslavement for so long. So any positive things that you want to share with what people can do and what they should be understanding about the stories that are being shared on the mainstream?
Well, one last thing on the Israel Iran thing is that it's a war of words in the UN right now, and the U.S. has a list of violations that the Iran broke when they attacked Israel, and Israel has a list of violations. Iran has a list of violations that Israel broke, and in attacking Iran and Lebanon and Syria, and so the battle lines are being drawn. What people need to understand is that even though Iran is a Muslim country, it's a Persian Muslim country and an empire onto its own. The language is different than the Arab states. The customs are different. It's actually its own entity. It's the largest country in the region, and it's separate from Saudi Arabia. It's separate from Jordan. It's separate from all these other countries. But it does have an important ally, and that's Turkey. And Turkey is a part of NATO. And so Turkey's sitting in the middle between the NATO beliefs and dictates and Russia and Iran. So they're kind of becoming the pivot point. So keep an eye out on Erdogan and Turkey. So it's a war of words right now in the UN. If you want to get an update, just go to any site that reports on the UN and find out what the war of words is happening there.
What can people do just for themselves to try to keep sane?
Just understand who the right and wrong in the battles that are going on, because it can be confusing real quick. So but basically you've got the mad dog Israel going nuts in the Middle East, and the U.S. has a leash on them while the U.S. is backing up its forces in the Middle East. Russia hasn't sent any more troops in there, but they have a large naval fleet just off the coast of Israel. So everyone's pointing guns at each other right now.
So ridiculous. So, and the real reason is not because of the war. Like I've said this before, the bankers are the ones that fund both sides of the war. They want
World War II.
World War II.
And any war.
Yeah, because I was thinking World War I, which is what the happened with the Tsar in Russia. That's what started it, I believe, was the assassination of the Tsar in Russia. But another topic.
So look at the way that the U.S. is funding its enemies so it can have enemies to fight. When we pulled out of Afghanistan, we left years of war materials there, bombs and
he sometimes touches the wire and then it makes a fuzzy sound.
Yeah, so Afghanistan was a major thing. The way that we left there, we left everything behind for the Taliban. We stocked up our enemies. It's like giving someone you have a gun pointed at someone and you give them a gun, then you have a reason to shoot them. And that's what the U.S. has been doing lately in the Middle East, arming people and then going after them.
And the reason is because the military industrial complex needs contracts. Who is the people that just got the contract to rebuild Russia? Well, it was BlackRock. So these are huge military industrial complex contracts that people that they get from these wars. Anything you want to share?
BlackRock is the largest corporation in the world and the largest military contract corporation in the world. They own Ukraine. They own the rebuilding of Ukraine. They're in Israel. They're everywhere. Yeah. And those are big contracts.
Huge. Yeah.
They're blank check contracts. And they just grow from there.
So what we have to understand is that this is all, it's all a game, it's all a play for these powers that and we'll never really know who are the powers. Like we say things like Rothschild and Rockefeller, but we don't really know because these families are so they're hidden inside of these investment companies like BlackRock. They're hidden inside of the military industrial complex contracts that they profit from. And we never know really who they are. So what is the Hopi? Let's leave people with some hope. The Hopi prophecy.
The Hopi prophecy.
The Hopi.
I just want to point out one thing
Sure.
about BlackRock and what they do with their money is they're taking their money and they're buying out America, and they're buying up whole neighborhoods and leaving them empty. So they're taking the housing supply and shrinking it with their money, driving up the prices and values of real estate. And there's whole neighborhoods now in America that are empty because for one reason or another, they've had to move out because of BlackRock buying up all that real estate. And the Hopi prophecy, well, it's not the brightest prophecy, but it does say that, that there will come a time when people will have either one heart or two hearts. And the two-hearted people will have lost their way. And those are the people that went off and developed technology. They developed what do you call them, customs that, and they're very warlike, and they're dooming themselves. But it will serve the purpose to weed out the people that aren't in line with life, in line with the customs of life. And those people will just go away. And this has happened 4 times before.
Fourth turning.
And it's nature's way of weeding out the people that are in tune with life and from those that aren't. So what the metaphor that I like to use is the chrysalis condition of the cocoon, when you have a butterfly that's being shaped out of a dying caterpillar. So the caterpillar's
Emulsified.
dissolving
Yeah.
and going away. All the institutions are going away, and Klaus Schwab is doing a good job of that, and China's doing a good job of that. They're taking away modern society and giving us a whole new civilization, which isn't too kosher. But that civilization, in order to occur, you have to destroy the old thing. You have to destroy the caterpillar. And what we as human beings have to do is hang on to our humanity every way that we can and live a peaceful life, live a bountiful life, trust in a higher being to guide us and protect us. So it's time to really get sincere with your prayers and get sincere with your actions, and act out of virtue, not out of vice. Act out of love, not fear. Act out of beauty, not just ugly accusations, you know. And that's the best you can do right now. Don't believe the hype. Use the hype as an indication of where we are in this opening of the cocoon, and then the butterfly is going to fly out. But before the butterfly flies out, there's a crack in the cocoon, and the dead caterpillar starts dripping out. So watch for ways that the caterpillar loses power in our world today. And we have a flyover right now. Here we are in beautiful downtown Hawaii.
Big Island.
Big Island.
So if you're watching this, if this spoke to your heart, and please share, like, and subscribe. Send me a comment. Let me know what you think. I do my best to look at those, and I do am doing a detox. Many people have asked questions about that. I'm going to do a video on that, but I do have to share my mug again because I'm super proud of my logo. It took a while for us to get it right. All of it, stand together, Hawaii. So you check out the link if you want one of these mugs. And also, yeah, let's do a prayer. Any last words before we pray? Because praying is definitely very powerful right now.
Everyone should pray every morning when they get up for a beautiful day. Always give thanks.
Gratitude. That's the first thing, is gratitude. Okay, let's do it. Great Spirit, infinite intelligence of all things. Just so grateful for this Aina, for this land, for the trees, for the beautiful breeze that blows through the trees. You can hear the leaves and the birds, even the worms that go through the soil. And Great Spirit, you are just so incredible with your infinite intelligence of the ecosystems that you have created on this planet, with the soil and the seeds that we drop into the soil, and we cover it with darkness and with pressure and with some water. It just, that seed sprouts and it just knows how to grow to the light. And then on the most perfect divine day, it pops through the soil, letting the sun shine on it for the very first time. And it keeps growing and growing. And Great Spirit, you're the one who created that. Just like you are the one who is beating our hearts, and you're breathing our bodies. And we just know right now that our hearts, that all people around the world, that our hearts are beating together with one heartbeat of humanity. That there's no separation, there's no color, there's nothing that separates us. And we just honor and bring to our conscious awareness right now the love that we have for each other, the love that we have for the wanting of a peaceful world, the love, the strong, high frequency of love that we have for our children and our family and our friends. And we send that frequency out to strangers who need it, to anybody around the world who just needs a little spark of hope that things can get better and that they matter and that they're not alone. So we send that out to the world right now because we are unified. The people around the world are unified. And we are holding in our hearts the knowingness that this world can be a beautiful place to live. We know that that is possible. And we know that it is happening. And we get to watch. We get to watch as these people who do not value human life, who value money over humanity, we get to watch as they are peaceably removed from power, whatever power they have, or they voluntarily step down. We get to watch as these soldiers around the world put down their weapons. We get to watch as these bombs don't explode, as these massive military equipment stop functioning. We get to watch that, Great Spirit. We trust in you. We trust in this journey. We trust in our own kuleana, what is ours to do, and our own inner guidance that is guiding our steps. We know that this world is a better place, and we get to watch it unfold as the darkness dissipates from this planet. And so it is.
And so it is.
All right. Mahalo, Michael, for joining, and mahalo to you guys for listening. Mahalo. Aloha.
Aloha.